So put your hands together and join me in welcoming our first speaker for the evening, Mette.
Thank you very, very much for that introduction, Karen. I am so happy that Karen is introducing me today, because Karen, she is to me so authentic. She's inspiring, she is uplifting, she's empathetic, and she is so on stage and off stage. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. How can you be authentic on stage? Authenticity, to me, is a key to taking you higher. But it takes going deeper first. And going deeper is looking inside yourself. When we talk about authenticity, there's a lot of misperceptions. What is authenticity? What does authenticity mean? It's being real, being genuine, being yourself. But what part of yourself? When you take an MBTI test, when you do an MBTI test, when you test yourself for introversion, extroversion, where do you score? I'm not going to ask who is an introvert in here and raise your hands, because the introverts will probably not raise their hands, and that I don't believe. Maybe you are introvert, all right. You are, good. And that is a good example, because introversion, if you are an introvert and you want to be authentic on stage, does that mean you shouldn't go on stage? What does that mean? Now, to me, introversion is a spectrum. And it means that if you score on the MBTI as an introvert, it could be that you're 70% introvert and 30% extrovert. So that means that when you go on stage, you can draw on the 30% of you that's extrovert. And this example shows that extroversion, introversion, is not even going deep enough if we talk about what is authenticity. What is you, your true self? I would like to start with a little Mentimeter test. And if you don't mind, take out your phones, go to mentimeter.com and add in the code that's written here on the screen, 452390. If you've been to APSS meetings before, you know the game. You go to the URL, and there's a couple of answers that I would like you to answer, so that we can get a quick view over what is the sentiment in this room. Can you go to the Mentimeter? When you are on Mentimeter, you will see 3 questions. Are you passionate about your keynote is the first one. You will see this whilst Eugene is getting it back again. And it has a scale from 1, Are you passionate about your keynote? Not really, that's a 1. You can drag this over to number 10. Absolutely, I'm very passionate about my keynote. And as you are getting on to 452390. There you go. And the results are coming in live here on the screen. So we have a couple of very high answers already. Are you passionate about your keynote? 9.4 is the score right now. Does your niche fully reflect you and your strengths? 8.9. Do people pay you adequately for your talks? It's lagging a little bit behind. It's getting better. 43 answers, 45 answers. We can see the score right here in the corner. 52, 53. All right, so we can see that in this room, you're actually quite good in terms of having a keynote that you're passionate about, and also about using your strength to define a niche that you own. Now, we can also see that there are quite some people who are in the middle here. To those of you who are in the middle, we're going to do some exercises that will hopefully move you further to the right side of the screen. And to those of you who already know your keynote, I hope that you will take the exercises as a little bit of a reflection. Is there maybe also room to pivot? We've seen some of the top speakers, also APSS members, who are pivoting around a certain point in their career and finding different keynotes. Good, so back to the presentation. We've got pretty good scores here. I would like to help you find your authentic topic if you're not 100% clear on that yet. To me, there's two things that this needs. The very first thing is passion. Passion is a key ingredient to me to be authentic on stage, to be passionate about your topic. How do you become passionate about your topic? I have some clients who tell me, well, I'm not really passionate about anything. I hear that regularly. Have you heard some clients as well say that? Exactly. Yeah. Yes, so it seems to be quite common. It seems also not to be too common in this room because you scored highly. In fact, I had one client who came to me and said, Mette, all this talk about being very passionate about things, I get so angry about it. I'm not passionate about anything. And he said this in such a passionate way that, of course, it was quite easy to unearth what this person was passionate about. Now, just finding your passion where you don't know your passion. You need a recipe to find your passion. And I'm going to share that with you in a little moment. First, I want to give you the second recipe for finding your keynote. And that is working on your strengths. Finding your unique skill set. Things that you are particularly good about. Perhaps the best in this room. Perhaps the best in the world. That's the second part. What's the third part we need to look at? Anybody has any suggestions?
What the audience will pay you.
What the audience will pay you for. And that's not necessarily what you're authentic about, but absolutely, that was also a hint to the third question we had before. What the audience wants to pay you about, what they want to pay you for. And the reason is that it will not be very sustainable if you go out and talk and you're not paid for it. At some point of time, your passion will be extinct. It will just go out. It will fizzle out. So yes, absolutely, what your clients will pay you for. Let's dissect the passion part first. If you don't know where to look for your passion, there is a step process that I'm going to share with you. And it starts with values. Values to me are your inner compass. It's what's at your core most important to you. The concepts, the principles that you live by. Last week at a workshop, one of my clients defined it in a way that I thought was very beautiful. She said, to me, values are when you take away all my titles and all my roles, when you take away the lawyer label, when you take away the professional working woman label, when you take away the mother label, what's left are the principles that I stand for, are my core values. So those are your values. When you have to find your values, you go to the next step. And that is defining your purpose. When you have your values, a purpose usually comes out very clearly from those values. To me, for instance, my values, they center a lot around growth, personal growth. It's also about empowerment. Based on that, I have a purpose, which is I want to do and be the best I can, and I want to empower others to do and be the best they can. That is my purpose. That is very exciting to me. Maybe not to everybody in the room, although since we're in the same line of business, a lot of you might actually also have a similar purpose in your life. There will be other people who are thinking, nah, that's not exciting to me at all. To me, this is what drives me. This is my passion. And with this, I have a lot more energy than I would have if I didn't follow my values. And in fact, 5 years ago, I was in a corporate job. In that corporate job, I had been, well, transferred to Singapore, and I was in a job with a lot less responsibility than before. I did not enjoy it. When I woke up in the morning, I looked up at the ceiling and thought, oh God, it's a work day, I've got to go to work. I dragged myself to the office where the days felt long. And when I came home in the evening, it felt like somebody would just take the socket, pull out the plug, and I would be off like a piece of electrical equipment. That's what I felt like. I did not have the energy. By living my life based on values, I have changed that, and I have a lot more energy to do the things that I'm doing today. Values, I know that a lot of you are also working with values. We have coaches in here, we have values experts, self-leadership experts. I thought, let's only do a very quick exercise on this. On the next slide, you will see a lot of words, and those words are values. I would like your intuition to have a look at these and pick out 1, 2, 3 words that you think, yeah, those are important to me. I can really relate to those. They really make sense. So as soon as I put up the word cloud, have a look at the words. Don't think too much about it. Pick out a couple of words that make the most sense to you. All right, you ready? Here's the word clouds. 30 seconds to see what makes most sense to you, what feels good for you. That was around 30 seconds. If you're already very aware of your values, maybe yours were not on here. They were? Good, very good. We all have different value sets, and this is only a small collection of possible values. There's a lot more values out there. Uncovering values can take a 6-month coaching program. It can take a full-day workshop. I'm not expecting everybody to get a huge aha moment with this 30-second exercise. What I would like to focus on is a second exercise, and that is going to your strengths. I have developed a framework around how to identify your strengths because I feel that a lot of the tests out there, they are very single-minded. There's some things missing. I have called my framework KITE because it also takes you to greater heights. It makes you lift off. The topic of today. If we look at KITE, it starts with a K, and the K stands for knowledge. Knowledge is straightforward. It's the stuff that you learn in books. It's the stuff that you learn in school, when you're studying. It's when you take a test, you can answer these questions on the spot. That's your knowledge. Now, that's not enough. You also need to know your identity. Your identity, what is your identity? I like to use the example of Teresa Go, who is on the directory that Karen mentioned in the beginning, Keynote. And she is a Paralympic medalist here in Singapore. So if you're Singaporean, you probably know Teresa Go. On her speakers page, she describes herself as a gay, disabled woman, and she's playing on the world stage. On the world stage, she's also Asian. So minority box, check, 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 check. 4 times minority boxes checked. And of course, when she speaks about how her background has shaped who she is today. This is her identity. Her identity has led to develop some awesome keynote talks where she inspires people because she has not had the smoothest background, and still she persevered. This is what she talks about. It's her identity, and it leads to great keynote talks. When I shared this story in one of my recent workshops, there was a German guy sitting there. Let's call him Dieter. And Dieter said, well, what if you don't fit those 4 minority boxes? And I wrongly assumed, hey, yeah, of course, you're white German male, you don't fit those boxes. And he said, what do you know about this? So whilst the whole room was figuring out what minority box he actually did fit into, he said, as a child, I was diagnosed with diabetes. I was told I cannot do any strenuous effort. I cannot do any adventurous stuff. So what did I do? I chose to do all the things that people told me I cannot do. I rode a motorbike across the desert. I climbed the highest mountains because I wanted to prove to the world that my diabetes was not going to stop me. So he also had some identity that shaped him. Another part of the KITE framework is your talent, your innate talent, the stuff that you're perhaps born with, that you are better at than anybody else in the world. And the 4th one is your experience, and I like this very much. The experience, if you compare it to knowledge, you have, say, a surgeon who has the knowledge, a professor teaching at university. Would you want to be under the knife of a surgeon who's teaching at university but hasn't had any experience for the past 20 years in actually going into an operation room? No. We want the experience as well. And the great thing about the experience is you can create the experience. You don't have to sit and think, oh, I don't have any experience. You can create it. Like Frederick Harrain, he advises people to write a book and go out and do 100 interviews. That is also creating your own experience when you don't have the experience on the topic yourself yet. Experience you can create. A few examples of how some speakers have done it. First of all, Jill Balter-Taylor. She is a brain scientist, so she certainly has the knowledge. Then one day, she observed a stroke. Not with her patients, not with a research object, with herself. She got a stroke. And of course, because she lived to tell the story, she now has a wonderful combination of her kite. It is a knowledge, because she studied it. She has the experience, because she lived through it. And she also has the identity, because being a stroke survivor, she now has an experience that has truly affected her as a person. Another example I'd like to share is from within this room. Somebody in this room and somebody who had a presentation here just a few meetings ago. I was very impressed with this experience, with this presentation, and that's because of the experience that this person has. Say hello. You were talking about decision making. You were talking about how you were teaching us how to make decisions. Now, if you look at your kite, for instance, I don't know you very well, so I don't know what your knowledge is about decision making. I assume you've studied that a little bit. I don't know whether your identity has affected your decision making. I don't know whether you're particularly talented in decision making, but I do know that you have some wonderful experiences in human-powered adventures and where you had to take a lot of decisions that were life or death decisions, and that you are using as an example in your keynote talks, in your workshops, and that makes it so powerful. It's simply that experience. And I like to point this out because it shows you don't necessarily need to have all of the 4 letters from KITE. You can focus on one of them. And the experience part, that's the one that you can choose to create. Another person I would like to point out is Wendy, also from APSS. She is talking about wholeness. She has a knowledge, she has studied it, studying for a PhD, and her identity is about connecting East and West. That is what she's focusing on. Her education has been partly Westernized and partly here, local East. She's building bridges. That's her identity. And her experience, she had a near-death experience. That's when she realized how important wholeness is, and that's what she speaks about. Those are examples of how you create powerful speeches that are authentic because they are part of you. They're based on your strength and partly also based on your passion. I would like to do an exercise, and you have a few sheets on your tables that you can use for this exercise. Let me go through the instructions for the exercise. First of all, you get 1 minute, and this is where it's supposed to still stay quiet. You get 1 minute where you brainstorm with yourself. You've got the kite there, and I want you to write down all the elements under K, under I, under T, and under E that fit to you. You get 1 minute to brainstorm. We don't start with that yet. I'm going to run through the instructions first. After that 1 minute, you will get my signature signal and you will not be in doubt. There will be my signature signal that shows that the 1 minute is over and we go to the group exercise. Now the group exercise, first it is, you look at the table, who has the most words on their kite list? Who has the most material to work with? So after the minutes where you brainstorm with yourself, you brain dump everything you know about your own strength, we go to the group exercise where you will see who at your table has the most words on your handout. If that person is already very, very clear about their strengths and doesn't need any further clarity, you can go to the next person who needs this exercise more. You only get 10 seconds to decide though. 10 seconds to decide who is going to be in focus of this exercise. If you cannot do it in 10 seconds, there's your man to learn to decide in 10 seconds. The chosen one will have 30 seconds to read all the words on your list. Now, on this list, you don't want to say, oh, you know, I thought I was kind of good at playing piano, but that my grandmother, she really criticized me and my mother agreed. No stories, please. We know that we have a room full of storytellers here. I simply want you to read the words. Please stick to that because we don't have very much time for this part of the exercise. We want to spend the most time on the last part, which is where the table for 3 minutes gives feedback to that one person on his or her strength. What you do as a table, and hopefully we have some coaches here and there around the room who can also facilitate this process around the table. I want you to reflect back. What did you hear? Is a story appearing? Is there a trend there? How do you see this person? Because maybe you also know a few people around the table. So 3 minutes where you reflect back to the person about his or her kite. Is the exercise all clear? No. What would you like to hear more? What are you supposed to do? The first step. You brainstorm with yourself and you write down everything that comes to mind about what you know, what's your identity, what are you talented at, what is your experience, what are your special strengths. So the first part of the exercise, the individual exercise, thank you for clarifying, is about simply brainstorming with yourself, what are your strengths? Is the exercise clear now? Yes. So you get 1 minute, go, and you will know when the next step of the exercise will happen. Nice, great. All right, this will take us to the second step of the exercise, and I expect things to be a bit more lively now. Who at the table has the most on their kite list? And take a decision on who will be in focus for the exercise by reading everything aloud. You get 10 seconds to fix this at your table. Who at your table has the most words on their list?
Exactly. She wrote it small. Yeah, you've done this before, haven't you? If you just write like
All right, that was 10 seconds. Everybody ready? So, there you got to hear my signature signal for when people get rowdy. Good. That takes us to the next step. So you have now decided who on your table is going to go first. And this person now for 30 seconds will read aloud the words and not tell stories. Simply read aloud the words that are on this list. Everybody listens and will afterwards reflect back on what they're hearing. So 30 seconds for the chosen one to read their kite.
You have to move. Yes. Go, read. Yes, you read, go. Can't hear you.
This is the correct timing, right?
Very impressive. 1 minute, yeah.
Okay, you get 3 minutes to reflect on what you've heard. Share it with the person who read it aloud. What did the table hear from that reading aloud, all the words? Not reading it again. All right. The table shares, what did they hear? Reflect back. What was the story? What was the trend? Do you see something else?
That was special. Like, that means we can post on LinkedIn. She's Bible, right? She did. Just going to NLP, okay, I got it. Bible, LinkedIn. Yeah, there is, man. It's all about connection, relationships. You're a connector, huh? Very good. So you're a good sister. You put that on the top. Oh, who's the sister? Sister here. Okay, got it. I'm not sure what that means.
So what's the next step? We're done.
Reflecting back, saying what you hear. Perhaps some more is coming up, of more discovery. Help the person to discover more about themselves. Help them to see a bigger picture that they perhaps don't see themselves. Another 2 minutes.
Do you speak about networking and connection and relationship? Go ahead. So I needed you today with me. I was in a career fair of NUS sleeping. I opened up the whole event. They needed
Kathy just showed me 5 minutes, but I still have 10 minutes according to this. I will be finished it in 7 or so. Okay.
That's what I also heard. Headhunting.
And the business part has to be very out of the box. And it's like the career, the place where
You'll keep it. My name is here.
okay.
20 more seconds to round up the discussion. If I want to have somebody talk from the back of the room, can they just stand up and speak up? Well, you don't have. All right. How did that go? I guess some people want to hear me whistle again. I take that as a sign that people want to hear me whistle again. How did that go? I'm happy to teach afterwards. I'll have a master class on how to whistle. It's very useful as a speaker or as a trainer to be able to do that because you'll just shut people up. All right. Did anybody have some interesting discussion at their table? Was something reflected back, some insights? Anybody who would like to share? I would like to take one table, very quick feedback. What was the discussion? At the end, please stand up and share your stories. Shout out loud.
You know what? Can you put her on the mic because we have a live.
Is there another mic there?
Is there another mic?
Thank you, Deborah.
You're welcome.
All right, it's this one first.
Hi. So my story starts with my identity.
Can you speak up, please? We can bring the mic closer to your mouth.
Hello, can you hear me well now? Thank you. So my story starts with my identity. I am an Asian and I'm from a developing country that came from a war and still ruled by the communists. So that's Vietnam. I grew up from poverty because of the situation and because of the way the government controlled the country. So I live with resilience. I'm a parent, I'm a mother with 2 kids, a sister and a wife. My experience from that is with international corporate firms, women leadership, law, marriage, handling debates and arguments, communication in tough topics, providing professional services, teamwork, and business entrepreneur. My talent, handling tough questions, dealing with tough men, resolving problems of others, commercially linked ability to bring out the commercial aspect from a professional standard point of view to bring business to the organization that I work with. Knowledge, law, relationship, parenting, and developing country economy. So that's my story.
Okay. Thank you very much. And what I like about this is how you're pointing out that some of the skills that you acquire in complete different parts of your life are transferable to what you're doing in other parts of your life. You can transfer some of the skills about difficult conversations you were talking about, and this can become something around a keynote topic. This can be something that is your core expertise. It doesn't have to be the things that you study in school. So thank you very much for sharing that. That's exactly what I wanted to point out with this exercise. You can do it. Most of you have master groups here at APSS. I know that a lot of you are part of a mastermind group. Discuss this in your mastermind groups and support each other to find what is your passion, what is your kite, what are your strengths, because that will lead to your authentic topic. The different steps to finding your authentic topic are passion, based on your values. It is strength defined by your kite that you have just gone through. And it's money in the sense of money represents value. It shows that somebody wants to listen to you. With money, what I also want to point out is when you are paid for your speaking gigs, it's not just about you. My purpose, I shared with you before, was about I want to do and be the best I can, and I also want to empower others to do and be the best I can. This has a purpose for the greater good, for others. If I focus on the first half only, I want to do and be the best I can, nobody would want to pay me for that, because that would be a purpose for the greater me, rather than the purpose for the greater good. And authenticity also needs the part of doing something good for the greater good. That is the difference for authenticity. Why would you choose authenticity? 3 different reasons. First of all, as I shared with the process, your values, when you live based on your values, it will unleash some energy that's stored within yourself. You will have energy to do extraordinary things. Second of all, you will create stories, because when you live your values, when you live your strength, when you focus on what you're truly good at, that is when you're creating your own stories. With the experiences you are creating, all of a sudden you're having discussions with people, you're having workshops, you're coaching people, and you get extra knowledge where you have stories that fit your authentic chosen topic. And that makes your talk also so much more fascinating for people to listen to. And second of all, it's about connecting with the audience, because the audience can feel that you are this topic. You are truly, authentically what you're speaking about. The audience can feel this, and you will connect with your audience. A lot of the talk about authenticity. The courses I have attended so far on being authentic on stage, they focus on connect with your audience, with your gestures, with the eye contact. Put a picture of your family on the slides. Now that does seem nice, but is it authentic? It shows that you have a family, but you might be going home and discuss a divorce with your wife afterwards. It's not authentic. It just shows your family. Authenticity is about finding your passion, using your strength, and checking that there's a purpose for the greater good by ensuring you can also get paid for it. Thank you.